Okay, so the US military is in a race, but it's not for what you might think. Not for more tanks, not for more jets. No, this race is for something way more valuable: truth. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a quiet revolution that's happening inside the Pentagon. It's a high stakes gamble to completely change how technology gets built and deployed, and it all centers around a brand new kind of currency: validated data. It really all kicks off with this incredibly frustrating question. I mean, you hear about these amazing new technologies, right? Drones that are supposedly impossible to jam, or bunkers that can be 3D printed right out of the dirt. But so much of it never seems to actually make it to the people who need it. So, where does all this amazing innovation go to die?
Well, the answer has a name that kind of haunts the halls of the Pentagon. They call it the Valley of Death.
And look, this isn't just some dramatic metaphor. It's a very real systemic gap where brilliant ideas just get trapped. They get stuck somewhere between the research lab and the actual battlefield. The specific problem is something they call kinetic blockage. Just imagine this. You've built a revolutionary new drone. To prove it works, you've got to test it against real-world threats. But the test ranges here in the US are full of restrictions, and the bureaucratic paperwork can literally take years. So your game-changing tech ends up grounded before it even gets a chance to fly. To fix this, the Pentagon figured out that it couldn't just put a Band-Aid on the old system. Nope, it had to completely rewrite the rulebook. In this new world, the most valuable thing you can have isn't a slick PowerPoint presentation, it's validated physics-based data. And you can see the shift right here. The old way was all about documents. It was a process that would just drown innovators in these huge, slow-moving requirement documents. The new way, though, is all about the engineering. It doesn't care about your promises on paper. It demands physics-based models that prove a system can actually do what you say it can do. At the heart of this whole new system is the digital twin. The best way to think about it is like a perfect virtual copy of a real piece of hardware living inside this hyper-realistic computer simulation. You can fly it into a virtual hurricane, you can hit it with virtual enemy jamming, and you can see exactly how it holds up, running thousands of missions in a single afternoon. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. A simulation is only as good as the data you put into it. Without real-world data on, say, how a sensor reacts to extreme heat, or how a new metal alloy stands up to shrapnel, well, your digital twin is basically just a video game. You absolutely need ground truth, that hard data from physical real-world tests. And this is the brilliant part. This is the lever to force the change. The Department of Defense is now holding back 2% of its entire budget in a really powerful fund. And the only way to unlock this massive pool of money? You have to show up with that validated ground truth data that proves your technology works. It's that simple. No data, no funding. But that brings us right back to the original problem, doesn't it? How do you get that ground truth data when you're stuck in that kinetic blockage? You need to build a bridge over that valley of death. And that bridge has a name. It's called the Digitize and Discover Event Program, or DND for short. Its entire reason for being is to act as the engine that generates the physical data needed to make this whole new system turn. You know, the D&D program is actually incredibly clever. It uses the special legal authority from an office called Foreign Comparative Testing, or FCT. This is what lets them bypass all those US testing restrictions by taking prototypes to our allies' test ranges, places like Australia or Israel. There, they can test against real foreign threats in a realistic environment and capture the exact data they need. Now, this isn't just a bunch of random one-off trips. These D&D events are run like a well-oiled machine, a combat capabilities factory, they call it. It's a repeatable, three-step process that's designed to systematically turn an idea into validated, usable data. So first up is the aligner. This is where they figure out exactly what they need to prove and design the test. Step 2 is the exciter. This is the fun part, the actual physical test. They call it the foreign crucible, where they fly the drone, they jam the signal, they capture all that raw data. And finally, you have the digital igniter, where that precious ground truth data gets fed into the digital twin to run thousands and thousands of virtual missions. This quote from the source material just perfectly captures the huge cultural shift we're talking about. It's really the end of an era. The department no longer buys promises and PowerPoint. It funds validated engineering data. The currency has changed from persuasion to actual proof. So, okay, what does this actually look like in practice? Let's check out a few examples of how this DND model is being used to solve some very different, but all very urgent problems for the people on the front lines.
So you've got Project Apex Thunder, which is focused on a jam-proof loitering munition for airborne troops. Then there's Iron Hive, and this is a wild idea. They're testing 3D printing hardened aircraft shelters from local soil, and then, hitting them with explosives to see if they hold up. And then you've got Project Starforge, which is trying to create a digital air bridge to print critical spare parts right on the flight line, thousands of miles from any factory. 3 totally different problems, but all using the same data-driven solution.
But the goal here isn't just to validate one piece of tech at a time. It's way bigger than that. The real goal is to build an interconnected ecosystem of capabilities.
And they call this the digital kill web. See, the old way of thinking was a kill chain, a straight line from a sensor to a shooter. It's fragile. If one link breaks, the whole thing fails. The kill web is different. It's a tough, resilient mesh network of these validated digital twins. And because every single capability is a digital model, they can be mixed and matched in new ways, on the fly to solve problems as they pop.
And what this creates is this really powerful flywheel effect. The data from one test doesn't just get filed away in a report somewhere. It gets added to this central library of models, and it makes the entire digital ecosystem smarter and faster with every single test.
Just think about it for a second. The detailed wind models they capture during a loitering munition test for Project Apex Thunder, that same data can be reused to make the simulations for the 3D printed bunkers in Iron Hive way more accurate. The secure data pipeline they build for Starforge to move aircraft parts, well, that can be repurposed to securely move battlefield medical data. Every test adds value to all the tests that come after it.
When you boil it all down, this entire effort, the shift to data, the digital twins, the D&D events, it's all about one thing: accelerating the speed of adaptation. Because in modern warfare, where victory is decided by who can learn and evolve the fastest, this race for ground truth might just be the only race that really matters.